But in this new world of change, to us falls the challenge of leading Britain through the first international financial crisis of the new global age. And as reflected also in the huge volatility in the price of commodities, its first resources crisis too. And these crises reflect underlying and unprecedented transformations in our world. The rise of Asia and the shift of global manufacturing power, growing resources pressures in our world from oil to food, the undeniable reality of climate change, and new political instabilities and conflicts, all accompanied by the growing gap between poor and rich countries, and of course by the impact of new technology, the rise of the internet giving millions of people for the first time the ability to communicate, to do business and organize across frontiers. And the range, complexity and impact of these forces underline just how much we are taking the first tentative steps towards what I will call a global society. And that what at stake now is not just the success and legitimacy of our global economy, but ultimately the prosperity and security of nations and communities in every corner of the world. The decisions we make now will reshape our societies in all probability for decades to come. And we have a choice to retreat or advance, to turn inwards or to look outwards, to be cowed by our fears or led by our hopes. The world today can seem a daunting place, and when people feel buffeted or bewildered by the scale of the changes, it can seem easy to retreat into the outworn and failed responses of yesterday, to a time of pessimism, protectionism and retrenchment. But I believe we could make a far better choice. I want this to be the moment when together we rise to the new challenges by purposeful, visionary and international leadership, leaving behind some of the orthodoxies of yesterday, embracing new ideas to create a better tomorrow, not as victims of history, but as shapers of an open, free trade, flexible globalization that is also inclusive and sustainable. For while today so much looks grey or dark in the global economy, we should not forget that we are in the midst of an economic transition to a new global age. Whatever happens now, it is likely that in the next 2 decades, the world economy will double in size. And that means with the rise of countries in Asia and elsewhere, twice as many opportunities for good businesses, twice as many chances for men and women with new ideas to market. And as many as 1,000 million jobs for skilled workers will be created. So this is the other side of globalization, not just the insecurities we now know about, but the opportunities, the promise it holds for tomorrow. So while I see a world that is facing financial crisis and still diminished by conflict and injustice, I also see the chance to forge a new multilateralism that is both hard-headed and progressive. And I believe that in today's international cooperation on finance, climate change, terrorism, and ending conflict, there is evidence of this new multilateralism at work to make the world a fairer, more stable, more prosperous place, because it is rooted in cooperation and justice. And if we learn from our experience of turning unity of purpose into unity of action, together we can seize this moment of profound change to create for the first time the age of the truly global society. One where progressive multilateralism, not a narrow unilateralism, is the norm. One where people can discover that what unites them is far greater than what divides them, and where it is cooperation, not confrontation, that flourishes as we answer the age-old challenges. The challenge to build consensus about a new global financial system, the need to confront the realities of global climate change by building the sustainable low-carbon economy, and to make a reality of the vision of a global society by creating global partnerships across public, private and voluntary sectors to address poverty and move towards economic justice. Now, I believe that we in the West should approach these challenges of our time with some humility. The West certainly does not have all the answers to them. We need more than the G8, for the time when just a few powers could sit round the table and set the global agenda is over. Quite rightly, the emerging powers of the 21st century will want to and must play their part. And so the G8, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and all international institutions must change to meet the new realities. But my central argument this evening is that the alliance between Britain and America and more broadly between Europe and America, can and must provide leadership in this, not in order to make and impose the rules ourselves, but to lead and broaden the global effort to build a stronger, more secure, and more equitable international order. People rightly talk of a special relationship. That special relationship is also a partnership for a purpose. The transatlantic relationship has been the engine of effective multilateralism for the past 50 years. Together we faced down aggression and dictatorship. In a few short years we built the great international institutions, and we led the drive for trade, enterprise, and dynamic markets. And now unprecedented events have brought a turn of history that few would have foreseen or expected. Just days ago, across the Atlantic, our closest ally gave new meaning to its founding creed, that all are created equal, and gave new strength to the notion that the American dream is for all Americans. More than 140 years after the abolition of slavery, and 40 years on from the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Act, America has chosen Barack Obama as president. And as we have seen from reaction in America, Europe, and around the globe, whatever one's politics, it can surely only be a source of hope and inspiration that a nation which would have once looked at Barack Obama and defined him only by his color, today sees in him the man they want to be their president and commander-in-chief. And when Barack Obama 4 months ago followed in President Kennedy's footsteps and went to Berlin, he called on the world to unite and stand together as one. Winston Churchill described the joint inheritance of Britain and America as not just a shared history, but a shared belief in the great principles of freedom and the rights of man. And this is what Barack Obama described in his election night speech as the enduring power of ideals, democracy, liberty, opportunity, and unyielding hope. And as America stands in this new dawn of hope, so let that hope be fulfilled through a pact with the wider world to lead and shape the 21st century as the first century of a truly global society. And I believe that with the far-sighted leadership we have in Europe, the whole of Europe can and will work closely with America and with the rest of the world to meet the great challenges which will illuminate our convictions and test our resolution. We must first reassert our faith in democracy and be confident in our belief that open, plural, diverse societies are those most likely to stay rich, strong, and free. Ultimately, our shared security should be based not on the increased use of weapons, but on the reduction. At this same occasion last year, I described the leading role I saw for our country in reducing the proliferation of nuclear and other weapons. And I'm pleased that 100 countries have joined us in banning cluster bombs, that the idea of a multinational fuel bank to help non-nuclear states acquire nuclear energy without resort to nuclear weapons is gaining support. And working with our allies, we are ready to do more. Having extended export prohibitions on trafficking in small arms, we are ready to promote a new arms trade treaty. In Washington this weekend, the British government will work with our partners to establish consensus around a new Bretton Woods system with a reformed modern international monetary fund that offers by its surveillance of economies an early warning system and a crisis prevention mechanism for the whole world. And the measures that we will have to take require the recapitalization of banks and the resumption of lending to families and businesses, immediate action to stop the financial crisis spreading to middle-income countries, building agreement for a new IMF facility, urgent agreement on a world trade deal, and a rejection of the beggar-thy-neighbor protectionism that has been a feature in turning past crises into deep recessions, and a restoration of confidence by addressing the root causes of the instability through reform around the principles of transparency, integrity, responsibility, sound banking practice, with every nation playing its part in international cooperation. And this will include better coordination of fiscal and monetary policy across the world, recognizing the immediate importance of this coordination for stimulating the economic activity we need. And at the heart of this is a growing agreement that at a time of change and massive uncertainty, people do look to their governments for action, and this is no time for conventional old thinking or tired old orthodoxies. the benefits of any country's fiscal actions will be all the greater if this is part of a concerted and fairly distributed international response to maintain global demand. And there is now a growing international consensus that, especially for countries with low debt like the United Kingdom, maintaining essential public investment is the right and sensible approach, while allowing a temporary and affordable increase in borrowing to support economic growth. Yesterday, China announced it was injecting almost $600 billion to support its economy. Last week, Germany announced its plans for a fiscal stimulus. President-elect Obama has already signalled a new fiscal stimulus for the United States. The European Union has said that flexibility in its Stability Pact to recognise exceptional and temporary conditions will be used. With Britain continuing to lead the debate, economic recovery will work better if we all work together. My Lord Mayor, tonight I've argued that uniquely in this global age, it is now in our power to come together, to confer and to decide, and that we must be guided by one clear truth, that we need solutions that can no longer be defined in terms of us and them, but can be achieved only together, us with them. I believe that people do not only cooperate out of need, I believe that there is a human need to cooperate. And I believe also that all our efforts reflect what people find when they can communicate across continents with each other, that there is a shared moral sense, that we are responsible each to the other, country to country as much as person to person. And because of this, no injustice can last forever. And even in the most desperate of circumstances, people can journey with hope. So my message is that we must be internationalist, never protectionist. Interventionist, not isolationist. Progressive, not paralysed by events. Forward-thinking, not trapped in the solutions of the past. And if we do so, 2008 will be remembered not just for a financial crash that engulfed the world, but for the decisiveness and the optimism with which the world faced the storm, endured it, and prevailed. And remember, too, for how in doing so, we discovered and refashioned the global power of nations working together. President Roosevelt famously said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." And when fear overwhelms our perceptions of reality, the effect is paralyzing. It leaves people frozen into inaction, helpless at a time of great risk, helpless even at a time of great opportunity too. But confidence in the future, that most precious asset of all, is the key to bringing back confidence today. It is dynamic, it heralds actions, and for reasons I've laid before you this evening, I am confident about the future. Confident that we can seize this moment, grasp it together, and use it to lay the foundations, optimistic, multilateralist, and inclusive, the foundations on which we can build the truly global society. Thank you.